Playmate Olympics, Tony Tennille and the truth about Lenny Bruce on the next Thick of the Night.
The time, 27 minutes before 2 o'clock. And good morning. This is Ed Ladd in the Channel 5 newsroom with the late night, early morning report. 3 Latin American countries held presidential elections yesterday. In Ecuador, conservative candidate Leon Febres Cordero won over liberal Rodrigo Borja to become the country's 3rd Democratic leader in 5 years. Voting in El Salvador was marred by fraud charges and guerrilla attacks that killed at least 14 people. Official results are not expected for 5 or 6 days, although exit polls by a U.S.-based TV chain indicate moderate Jose Napoleon Duarte is winning over far-rightist Roberto de Boisson. And in Panama, more than 600,000 voters cast ballots yesterday in the first presidential election in 16 years. Results are not expected until early Monday, but of the 7 candidates, only 2, an economist favored by the military and an 82-year-old opposition candidate, have any chance of winning. Pope John Paul is en route to Papua New Guinea on the 2nd leg of his 10-day Asian tour that'll also take him to the Solomon Islands and Thailand. The last day of the Pope's 4-day visit to South Korea was marred by a man who threatened him with a toy gun. In an interview with Newsweek magazine, Vietnam's prime minister says his country is ready to normalize ties with the United States. But Van Ban Dong said hostile U.S. policies are blocking the process. Dong also said his country soon will return the bodies of 8 more U.S. soldiers listed as missing in action. Evangelist Billy Graham left a British hospital yesterday so he could preach at an evening service in London. The 65-year-old Graham underwent sinus surgery on Saturday, 1 week before he begins a 3-week tour of England. Following the service, Graham returned to the hospital overnight and is expected to be released sometime today. Well, President Reagan may be Irish, but the leader of Ireland's left-wing Workers' Party is promising a nasty welcome when Reagan visits Dublin next month. The leader said there will be a massive but peaceful demonstration against U.S. military policy. A mass march is also planned in London when Reagan later visits the British Prime Minister Thatcher. On the national scene, Atlanta Mayor Andrew Young predicts Walter Mondale will be the Democratic presidential nominee and feels Gary Hart will be Mondale's running mate. At a news conference Sunday in Berea, Ohio, Young also said he thought Jackson eventually could be a good president, but that it's too soon and Jackson is still young. In Texas, Democratic Congressman Kent Hance faces a runoff with State Senator Lloyd Doggett to see who will run against Republican Congressman Phil Gramm in November. They're vying for the seat being vacated by GOP Senator John Tower. But Doggett's second-place finish in Saturday's balloting may be challenged by Bob Kruger, who was only 173 votes behind Doggett. Officials in eastern Pennsylvania say they want to make sure no one else is killed by falling into an abandoned mine shaft. So they're going to seal openings to the Sharp Mountain Mine, where 6 people were killed when their vehicle plunged into a hole more than a week ago. Driving rains and strong winds battered the southeast over the weekend, leaving 2 people dead in Tennessee. Authorities say both deaths were the result of flooding that followed the storms. Next door to Tennessee in Kentucky, the problems caused by heavy thunderstorms were compounded by tornadoes as more than 24 homes were damaged. Thunderstorms and funnel clouds also invaded Florida, causing minor flooding and power losses. A top management negotiator said the 35-day strike of 4 unions against 24 casinos in Las Vegas could last another 35 days. Vince Helm of the Nevada Resort Association said yesterday the 2 sides are still deadlocked over at least 30 issues ranging from wages and benefits to health and welfare issues. 5 resorts signed contracts last week. And in Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, a bank is taking on former heavyweight boxing champion Muhammad Ali. Landmark Savings Association this weekend filed foreclosure papers on Ali's home in Mount Lebanon, a Pittsburgh suburb. Ali reportedly owes about $30,000 in back mortgage payments. On the local scene in Parsippany, New Jersey, the members of a union representing 21,000 supermarket clerks are voting overwhelmingly to ratify a 3-year pact with 4 store chains. This according to a spokesman for the labor group. After 29 days of negotiations, we feel we have a good offer, and it seems the membership is agreeing with us, said Frank Margiotta, a spokesman for Local 1262 of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. The balloting began yesterday with Pathmark, Grand Union, and one group of ShopRite employees gathering at the Aspen Manor to consider a tentative agreement worked out last week under the threat of a strike. Foodtown workers scheduled voting for tonight at the Landmark Inn in Woodbridge, while the remaining ShopRite employees will vote at 7 p.m. Tuesday at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center in Poughkeepsie, New York. The results of the voting are not expected until midweek. Margiotta said the balloting Sunday showed the workers were following the recommendation of the union leadership to endorse the agreement. The head of a clinic in New York's Harlem district says heroin is making a comeback. Robert Baird of the Haven Clinic said yesterday that heroin dropped briefly, but now we're seeing more and more addicts, and the worst is yet to come. Turning to sports, in the NBA playoffs yesterday, it was New York 118, Boston 113. That series is tied at 2-all. It was Los Angeles over Dallas by a score of 122 to 115, and that went into overtime. The Lakers lead that series 3-1. It was Phoenix 111, Utah 110, also in overtime. The Suns now lead that series 3-1. And in baseball in the National League, Houston clobbered the Mets 10-1. It was Cincinnati 5, Philadelphia 3, San Francisco 3, St. Louis 2, San Diego 8, the Cubs 5, Atlanta over Montreal 2-0. And in the second game, Atlanta took Montreal 9-8. And it was Los Angeles 6, Pittsburgh 4. In American League action, the Yankees beat Milwaukee in 10 innings, 8-4. It was Toronto 2, Kansas City 1, Boston 3, Chicago 1, Minnesota 4, Oakland 1. Detroit 6, Cleveland 5, and that went 12 innings. Baltimore 6, Texas 1, Seattle 3, California 1. And in United States Football League action, the Generals beat Oklahoma by a score of 49-17. Here's the weather. Tonight, partly cloudy with lows in the upper 40s. Winds mostly east to 5 to 10 miles per hour. Monday, cloudy with rain likely by late morning, continuing through the afternoon with a chance of a few thunderstorms, high in the low 60s. For Monday night, showers and a few thunderstorms likely, low in the low 50s. And for Tuesday, showers ending in the morning, becoming partly sunny in the afternoon with a high around 70. Right now, it's 56 degrees. Humidity is 62%, and the barometer reading 30.10 inches and rising. From the Channel 5 newsroom, this has been the Late Night Early Morning Report.
When the world should all be sleeping and the melody comes creeping, it's no cabaret at the milkman's matinee.
Ah, my dear, the night is young and the music out of this world. This is Marty Wilson inviting you to tune in to America's original all-night music show, The Milkman's Matinee, only on
1130 WNEW.
We're going to meet a woman who's captured the best-looking men in America, and all it takes is a camera. This and more Monday on Breakaway.
It was on the first balmy day, after all the rains had come and gone, with the magnolia trees in full bloom, and the first yellow daffodils were proudly surging upwards to the sky. As if competing for all to see, and not to be missed, were the majestic tulips in rainbow colors that challenged smiles from all passers-by. I was driving along in a busy-as-always suburb, and at an intersection, the other driver in his car, facing me, beckoned me to proceed first and make my turn. Since I perceived that he was there ahead of me, I motioned to him to go first. As he made his turn, He saluted me with a wide grin, and I saluted him back. Gosh, it made me feel good, and the day appeared even more gloriously beautiful. Several blocks further, at a crosswalk with no light, there was a black teenager walking across. He stopped, not knowing if I would. When I stopped the car to let him cross, he made sure he caught my eye and smilingly gave me a thumb up thanks, to which I immediately responded with my thumb up for him. My heart was full. The joy I felt toward my fellow man was indescribable. People are great if you just give them a chance. If only there could be a renaissance of an era of good feeling. Instead of trying to blow each other up, I daydreamed all day long. Humanity, living together, just plain living together. Is that too much to hope for? I'm Dr. Sylvia Hers.
This is television station WNEW-TV, Channel 5, New York, owned and operated by Metro Media Incorporated, with transmitter atop the World Trade Center and executive offices and studios located at 205 East 67th Street in New York City. WNEW-TV operates on an assigned frequency of 76 to 82 megahertz as authorized by the Federal Communications Commission. Some programs and portions of programs presented by this station have been recorded. WNEW-TV's entire broadcast schedule is a copyrighted original compilation work. No recording, retransmission, or other use may be made of WNEW-TV's programming without the express prior written consent of Metro Media Incorporated. Good night.